Great skills again by him. Oh, marvellous goal by Logan.
Welcome to the Rangers Journal.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Rangers Journal. My name is Doug. This is Sunday the 30th of November following Rangers' dismal 0-0 draw at home to Falkirk. A real disappointing game, particularly after some of the other results this weekend, and really a match I think that just sums up on every level what's wrong with this current team. And this could be a very short one. There's not an awful lot to talk about other than the things we've said, I think, about 100 times, but we will go over some of them nonetheless. I see loads of you in the comments already getting your thoughts in. Do keep them coming. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll get to go through some of your comments in a wee minute. First of all, I just want to start off on what might be the only positive note on today's pod, and that is to mention our sponsor. We are proudly sponsored by the good guys over at the famous Bluebells Bar at Puerto del Carmen in Lanzarote. So if you're over in Lanzarote, you'll definitely find a warm welcome there, especially if you mention the Rangers Journal when you're popping about Puerto del Carmen. It's a family-friendly bar with food and drinks. You can go for both chill evenings and party evenings, and they do show Rangers matches live, so you don't have to miss the Bears while you're on holiday, though if they're going to keep playing like that, you might actually want to take a week off from watching. There's nothing better than sitting overlooking the sea with your drink of choice, either in the sun or in the bar in the shade. It was a bit too hot. So if you are in Lanzarote, give the guys a hello and say Rangers Journal sent you. I think I've got someone joining me. Hello, King Stew. How you getting on, mate? Or is that a bad question to ask?
Yeah, it was okay before kick-off. Thought they'd potentially get a decent result against them, but no, that was left me feeling not too grand. How's yourself? Are you good?
Good is a bit of a stretch, but yes. Other than the game, yes, I'm doing well, thanks. But yes, that was not an easy watch.
No.
We'll start off with we touched on the lineup just before we did on the pre-match, which I'll bring back up here for a second. Did you have any thoughts on the lineup as it was?
Well, initially, just the back line, I thought, oh God, not again. But we're kind of rocking a hard place selection-wise with injuries to Suter and Cornelius. So, although it was a bit deflating to see it, can't really have expected anything else. I was kind of frustrated to see Asgard starting again. Don't think he's offering us very much. But I was kind of like, oh, Prajami, we'll not see him for a while, see if he's got something to offer. And I think he actually did offer quite a lot this game, and amongst a bunch of drab passengers. But yeah, he was a highlight. But what was your thoughts on the team?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was interesting, obviously, to see him drop a few players, Diamandi and Gassama, the main two, and switch things up a bit. Bashrami is someone that had been talked about, and we were wondering if he would get some game time. So that was good to see. I thought he was, if we had to pick bright sides or silver linings, he was okay. I think he did enough to potentially suggest we should give him a couple more games anyway. And I think really the only surprise was maybe Megama or Magoma not coming back in. When he came on, I thought it made a world of difference on that left-hand side. But other than that, I wasn't too surprised. I don't know about yourself, but I think we are really seeing that Danny Rule is having to kind of make the best out of a bad bunch at the moment, though, because obviously he's made a bunch of changes there, and we arguably got worse.
Yeah, he's definitely just working with the tools at his disposal, I guess, at this point. They aren't looking too sharp, to be fair. I think this could be a bit of a rough season for us again. I think so many of the signings that Martin brought in just so far wide of the mark for what a Rangers player is, and the calibre of player and the attitudes that you expect from somebody with a Rangers jersey on. And Yeah, I'm just kind of this kind of dread thinking what it's going to be like the rest of the season. And they just look so passive and just let the game pass them by. There's no ownership. There's no like dig. It's just I don't recognise what I'm watching. It's a tough one just now.
Yes, it certainly is that. January can't come soon enough. Normally when I know I'm on the post-match, I make obviously copious notes of what goes on throughout the game. I think I've only got about 4 notes for the first half, one of which it's literally just us. We were controlling the game, but we just weren't really creating anything. Our passing is so poor, is one of my other notes just after the half-hour mark. There just really was absolutely nothing going on in that first half. Slight penalty shout at 37 for a tackle on Miovski, but I didn't really think there was much in it.
Nah.
I don't know about yourself, and really that's it. A shot from Barron, literally at sort of the 45th minute. A little bit before that, a decent running shot from Bajrami, but like I've just nothing there. There was just nothing going on in that first half at all. It was just a really, really boring game. As I say, the only thing I could say was that there wasn't any significant chances for Falkirk, which I suppose is good for the defence after their shaky midweek, but just really poor.
Yeah, not much in terms of highlights first half from me either. You obviously had Barron's shots at either side of the half. We got one early on, which was a save, and one, as you said, just before half time, which I think in real time I thought it was closer than it actually was when I watched the replay. But yeah, there's not much to write home about. And I mean, I suppose there's some credit to Falkirk because they made themselves difficult to beat, and it was a scrappy game in the first and in the second half. I think that Falkirk probably got the lion's share of the wins for the duels throughout the second half as well. They would just seem to really kind of rely on not physicality, but they just seem stronger and kind of more regimented in how they wanted to defend and how they move forward as well than Rangers were.
Yeah. Were you surprised when we started the second half and we didn't make any changes?
Yeah, very, very. Absolutely. I would have had Diamandi on sooner. I'd have had Asgard off for anybody who fancied a game.
Hands up in the crowd. Who wants on?
Lads, you got boots? No. Yeah, I would have made some changes in midfield before coming back out. I was glad to see Finlay Curtis came on, although I don't think he really much. I mean, if he came on, he immediately got the ball and put a dead simple cross into the box, and it was effective. And I was like, this is what kind of your like meat and potatoes football, just your basics. Get it right, and things happen. But yeah, they've made those changes earlier on, given the subs that eventually did come on more time to get the pace of the game, and then obviously they could be more effective. Was there anybody missing today that you would have had on?
Not really. Just a quick peek at the bench here. Well, Cameron would be the main one. I would like to see him better. I do want to see Sterling coming back, but it wasn't really the right game to bring him on.
No.
We were, again, in the pre-match, we said we hoped we would be like 3-0 up by about 70 odd minutes so that he could come on and just take it easy, feel himself into some minutes. But yeah, so yeah, it would be Cameron would be the only one. I think I would have liked to have seen Cameron come in. To say I'm a big fan of him. I'm not sure what he needs to do, but Curtis got his opportunity today. Maybe Cameron will get his another day. But we were slightly better in the second half, which is not saying much given how poor the second half went. But I do have more notes at least, although about a third of them are just the substitutes. 56 minutes, we brought on Magoma for Aarons, Gassama came on for Ant-Man. Both substitutes very much needed, and both of them I do think impacted the game. As I say, we had really nothing coming from the left, and Magoma did make a difference in that regard, pushing up, attacking. And Gassama did what Gassama does, which unfortunately right now is a lot of good running, a lot of getting into areas where he could do something, but then not actually doing anything. There was one near the end where he gets the ball, he's kind of running forward, he's got a bit of space, and then Curtis was out on the left with space, passes the ball to him, and Curtis probably swings in across, but instead he just keeps going, and because he keeps going, about 3 Falkirk players have the time to eventually just crowd him, and he ends up losing the ball, and that just really sums up Gassama for me right now.
I think he's doing that a lot as well. Like, obviously at the start of the season he was effective in scoring some absolute worldies, but I feel now, I don't know if he's been told just to do your own thing, but he is keeping hold of the ball too long and eventually just running into roadblocks, rather than passing it off and allowing space to be created. I mean, even there was that great move where we went down the right hand side, and it started with Tav, went through the midfield and ended up Gassama forward. And I thought he was actually going to just strike it, like continue the flow, and he did that cut in, and I was like, oh,
he loves that. He loves that.
Aye. And I was like, see if he just struck that, his laces through full pay. I don't know, he might not have scored either, but I don't know, I just felt he took the sting right out of it. He did that cutback, and then he didn't even get it on target in the end.
Even with the cutback, he should be making better of that. Well, in fact, he should be scoring for me. Like you say, I agree. I think he would have been better just taking it on his right foot and hitting it into the far corner. You see players do that all the time, but like I say, he loves to make that little last cut. But even then, he's got the whole goal in front of him, and he basically just hits the goalkeeper. So yeah, we just need more from him in that regard. So I'm gonna look. I've got my notes here. 58 minutes. In fact, no, sorry. Did he put it wide? Actually, he might have put it wide. We had a good corner in from Tav just after the hour mark that Asgard should have put the ball in the net in from it. He's got a free header. I think that was the one that there was a foul called in the box that ultimately wouldn't have counted. But again, it's just it just really shows again our inability to take chances. See, Asgard absolutely needs to be getting that at least on target, but it's a really poor header. There's probably the one hectic moment then immediately after that when Butland goes to kick the ball out and just hits it straight into a Falkirk player. There's a wee bit of a scramble. Magoma thankfully is alert and manages to sort things out there. It's after that. It's after that. Then 66 minutes, Gassama's chance where he should score. We make some more substitutes. Danilo, Curtis, and Diomande all come on between 67 and 73rd minute. None of whom really. I can't actually really remember Diomande touching the ball. I remember Danilo having one cross. Curtis, like you said, a couple of times on the ball, but not really having much. Falkirk shot over the bar at 82. And yeah, it's just nothing. My notes have gone. There's just no chances in these notes at all. As I say, the only upside I can say, I think, is that there's also very few Falkirk chances. I thought Falkirk were set up really well. They defended well. Their guy up front, whose ludicrous name,
that ruined my day. I really did.
Someone's at it with that. His name is Jim.
Up, man.
his name is Jim or something, and they've just gone, oh, we'll just he was really good for them in terms of he was everything we would like from an out ball for them. But they didn't really get any solid chances. So at least, as I say, the defense was relatively solid. We'll get on to some. As I say, I don't really want to talk about the game because it's just that bad. So we'll get on to some viewer questions here. So we've got GTH85's put in, Rami should play in the 10, Curtis out wide, Asgard is a waste of a jersey. Can't really argue with much of that. I thought Asgard had a couple of moments early on, but other than that, he would he would do a good turn, but then he would have a heavy touch and lose the ball, or again, he would just he's a player that I'm expecting to make the incisive passes through a defence, cutting through lines and helping getting the wingers in and behind or the striker in, and he just doesn't seem to do it. It's all kind of side to side or as I say, he's good for taking a heavy touch and losing the ball. I'd be absolutely up for the next game. Bajrami, as I say, I thought he showed enough to get the opportunity for a second game, at least. So maybe play him central and, like we say, give Curtis more time up front next time and see if he can add something, because the guys that are getting picked certainly aren't.
Absolutely. I definitely think Bajrami showed that it's his jersey to lose now in terms of starting. I think he just really kind of reminded everybody what he's got to offer. I think with a bit more game time, we'll see him come good performance-wise. I think Hascard is just, I just feel like it ever gets out of second gear. He just kind of looks like one of these like luxury players that don't really, I think he strolls about. He doesn't look like he's got any urgency about him. He's not got like any dig. The one time he did have a bit of dig, he ended up getting red carded, mind you, but I wouldn't have him in the team.
I think we've had too many players like that. We've had similar players of that kind of ilk, I think, recently, and unfortunately they've all failed to make the grade for similar reasons. So it looks like he's going to be another one. GCHI Gassman needs to learn how to pass the ball. Yeah, I think his decision making is really poor at times. Gassman and Antman both have. The more I've watched them, both have the same problem, and it's that they're used to having more time and space in the leagues that I think they've played in prior to coming to Scotland, because they're just both running into dead ends constantly, which I think is a result of them playing for a team where the opposition sets up strong and organised in defence, whereas certainly the Eredivisie for Ant-Man, but I think probably equally so for League One. They're used to having a bit more space to run into, and it just seems like they're really struggling to get out of that mindset where, as I say, they just keep running into these dead ends and ending up losing the ball or having to turn back.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. Ant-Man was more frustrating for me. You can see Gasma, what he's trying to do. He does convert sometimes, more so at the start of the season. But I feel Ant-Man's just a passenger every game. It has a kind of moment and flashes of brilliance in terms of trying to like penetrate in the box and stuff like that. But generally, I find him quite ineffective, quite lightweight. I just don't think he offers as much. He is pacey, and he can move. He can carry the ball, but I don't feel he does much once he gets there after carrying it.
Yep. Well, that's it. Next one we've got. It's just what's it? RF Lawson. Did any players get pass marks for you guys today? Anyone in particular for you, Stu?
I say Bajrami would get pass marks. Barron as well.
Yeah, I would agree with both of them. I thought Fernandez was decent again. I think he's showing himself that he could be a decent option, certainly for the squad, if nothing else. Giga had a couple of little moments, but overall was okay. But yeah, I think those Barron and Bajrami certainly. Megoma, when he came on, I thought made a difference. I'd give him a pass as well, having come on. But that's probably about it. RF Lawson, there's not very many, and those are passes in context as well. Probably should point out, I don't think either of us are saying that any of them were especially good, but they were certainly better than I think the overall. So, William Duffy 505, thanks for your comment. Asgard and Ant-Man should be shown the door. Is Roll just Martin in disguise? I think it's a little bit harsh on Roll, just because this is Martin's team. Let's make no mistake, and this is the team that Thelwell and Stewart built for Russell Martin, and I think there's only so, especially with the injuries we've currently got as well, there's only so much Roll can do. Yes, we can maybe nitpick a couple of the options in terms of, he should be playing Cameron, he should be playing Curtis. But those players on their own aren't going to turn that game hugely, I don't think. Maybe they get a goal maybe they do get a goal, but I don't think they certainly wouldn't have improved the overall performance, which is the problem with just too many players that are just not of the right quality and are not offering, we're starting a right back at left back because we've got no other left backs. It's just a real mess, and unfortunately, it's going to take a bit of time to fix.
I mean, I was talking to Scotty yesterday, and I was like, the sad thing I realised the other day that our best players now were signed by Michael Beale. You had Jack Butland in goal. You've got Nico Raskin in midfield. You've got Danilo, who's probably our best striker now, up top. Like, all these guys were signed by Michael Beale, who got punted long ago. And our captain was signed by Mark Robin. I mean, the team was just regressed so much. We need to start making forward-thinking decisions in terms of what type of players are going to develop into a kind of deep squad over a period of a season or two. Aye.
I mean, I think that really is the damning part about the recruitment, is that there's been times this season that Tavernier has been our best player. He's still up there in terms of top scorer. He's getting a bunch of assists, and he is nowhere near where he's on his decline, because he's older, he's slowing down. He's on his decline, and yet still is scoring the most goals and getting the most assists. And as I say, last season, people spent the entire season talking about him needing to go, and now the narrative is, well, we need to give him another year. That's just, and I mean, and I'm not saying that he was good today either. He was just as poor as the rest. But the fact that all of that is happening is just, like you say, damning. For this is a player obviously that was signed a decade ago. I guarantee almost everyone would take Dessers back, another Beale signing. I said it in the pre-match, as much as Dessers missed chances, he'd probably have about 7 goals this season by now, I would imagine. But this has been, as I say, pretty damning. And yeah, if we thought the Beale regime of signings was bad, it looks peachy just a bit now. We've got Mr. Thomas, D682. To be fair, Fernandez does look half Stephen. Yep, I agree with that. I thought he was fine today. Didn't seem like there was any particular. As I say, that's probably the one silver lining we can take from today. And the defense overall was fine. A couple of little moments here or there, but they looked okay. Here's a good one for you. Matondo could even get a game now in this squad. Are you looking forward to Matondo coming back, getting into the team, maybe doing something?
I believe it when I see it. It's like permanently injured. Do you know what? He's been an absolute waste of a signing for us, an absolute waste of wages, and an absolute waste of a transfer fee. But he'd walk into that team now. A fit Matondo would walk into that team with his pace, and obviously you've seen he's got the ability to score some good goals. Just doesn't do it consistently. He'd walk in that team.
I mean, I have said in the past, the only problem with Matondo really is his injury problems, because when if you actually go back and look at his blocks where he's got a solid 5, 6, 7 games in a row, there's goals and assists in those games. When he plays, he does okay. I mean, obviously he's got his famous goal against Celtic. That'll be his one legacy, no doubt. When he eventually leaves at the end of the season, or whenever it is. I think he scored the game after that against Hibs as well. So he would be a good player if he could just stay fit. But I mean, how many players have we had in recent years where we could say they would be a good player if they could just stay fit? But too many. Got Williamson. Roll keeps going to Ant-Man and Asgard. What does he see? I think they're just the senior players, and at the end of the day, that's what he's got available to him. Obviously, he did switch things up a little bit today by bringing on Bajrami. Obviously, those two were still on the pitch, but ultimately, I think for Roll, he's just got to keep trying combinations in the hope that he'll get something to click until he can get to January and get some more options. Because, as I say, I mean, bringing up the bench again today, could have had Cameron on. Obviously, Curtis came on. But, I mean, if he's wanting to try something new, Gasma wouldn't have been a change. Danilo doesn't really work out wide. So he's not really got much there. Once Sterling's fitter, he could be an option to play out wide, because obviously Sterling, luckily for us, could play pretty much anywhere. So that'll be useful once he's back to fitness. But I think he was on the bench just to put him on the bench again, hope, and maybe in the hope that we'd have been 3-0 up and he could have come on. But there's not a huge amount there,
No.
other than, as I say, trying different combinations in the hope that the combinations work.
Aye. What do you think about the January transfer window? I've got a slight kind of trepidation about it, because I've the opinion that you don't really make too many meaningful signings in January. It's more like patch jobs, short-term fixes and stuff like that. But it'll be Danny Rowe's first opportunity to put his stamp on the team, kind of player-wise.
Yeah, just before I touch on that, let's not go too crazy, Dado. Okay, Dado saying Dal could get in that team. Let's not go too crazy. I think I can't run more than about 4 seconds, and you put me in, and I'll score more goals than Dal will. Yeah, I think obviously, I mean, you're right, and we're not gonna be able to fix everything. I think you can make 1 or 2 maybe key changes, either maybe either a lone player or sign someone that can make a difference. I genuinely believe if we can bring in a centre back that's commanding and can organise and basically a new Goldson who's loud, will shout and organise the defence, keep everyone right, particularly given a lot of our defenders right now are very inexperienced, and then a striker that can consistently score goals. Those two, if you can make those 2 signings and they're both good, I think that would be enough to make meaningful change to the team. Because if you've got someone that could score the first chance, get a goal in 5 minutes, that kind of thing can get the confidence up a little bit. There was a bit in the first half where we lost the ball, and Kilmarnock played, I think it was about 3 passes, and they were all one-touch passes. It was just like boom, 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 and they were suddenly away. The boy ultimately gets tackled, and it comes to nothing. But the moment I saw that, I was like, why can't we do that? Why are we not able to do that? It was just like a nice, simple boom, 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 3 first-touch passes, but we were just so laboured and slow and knocking it about. If we could get someone in that is able to, as I say, have a bit of that confidence, it could, it's not. It's not title winning changing, but it would be enough to, I think, potentially change games like that and get a bit of confidence in the team. And that's kind of what I'm hoping for from January. As I say, a commanding centre back that can basically, as I say, be the new Connor Goldson, and then someone who can regularly put balls in the back of the net so that we, as I say, start scoring some goals. That, I think, could help to, let's say, lift a little bit of the players around them, get a bit of confidence in, and be enough to at least then get us to summer where we can then make more meaningful changes.
I'll make sure I keep my phone on then.
Garl here saying, I always have to look at his name twice to pronounce it. Mas Wahise, in his last 6 months in Motherwell, I'd take a punt on him. Yeah, he's a decent player. Long term, I'm not sure if he's more than a squad player, but I mean, I wouldn't say no. Have you seen much of him for Motherwell at all?
Yeah, he has been good. I can't argue with the comment. He's been playing well. It's a risky one though. I know you're saying he's good as a squad player, like long term. I don't know if our squads are much better than a lot of the other squads in the league at the moment, but thinking on the way that you are, that obviously we are signing the kind of best of players, and he'd probably fade away. Sometimes you find as well, back when we had a squad that a lot of these guys wouldn't get into, we'd end up signing them based on their performances with Motherwell, and then it just doesn't translate to Rangers, like Jake Hasty, that type of thing. And we signed Alan Gow from Falkirk, and I think he played 2 games for us in the league and Scottish Cup. All that type of thing, like they ultimately look good, and then they end up coming to Rangers and under a kind of closer scrutiny end up not kind of making the grade. But he certainly is putting in some fantastic performances for Motherwell at the moment, and he's a fan favourite for them.
Yeah, absolutely. see if anything happens on that one. I mean, are there any particular players in the league that are standing out for you right now that you'd maybe like to see as target?
I think the fact that Shankland's still wearing a Hearts top is a massive failure on our part. I think he was probably what you're talking about, a kind of main striker. We needed somebody like him. There are a few others. I'm struggling to think right now. I wasn't expecting that question. Aye. Alfredo Egeman, I'd take him just for the name.
Yeah.
Uh,
in the hope he can conjure up something. But yeah, I mean, like I say, it's a squad really just devoid of creativity, and that was laid bare today. We're going to need to hopefully. Someone made a good suggestion in one of the pods, I think, the other day, about maybe we can go out and find some players that are on the fringes of their national teams that are going to the World Cup that aren't maybe getting as many minutes as they like. Maybe target something like that, because that's someone with a bit of motivation, because they're fighting to get to go to a World Cup. Then they're hopefully going to be putting in obviously their best. Maybe we could find something like that as on a loan. Again, like you say, January, not a time we can necessarily get the best of options. GH85 here. This is one that's raised a lot. Gogic at St Mirren, solid defender, always talking players about him. Is he one you would take?
Absolutely, yeah. That probably should have been an obvious show. I never thought of that. Yeah, Gogic. Yeah, I think he'd kind of really shore up the defence. And you're kind of all the other attributes that he brings with him as well. I think that'd be a great addition to the Rangers squad.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people. Positive the idea of him. We've got Jedi here. Why Aaron's starting ahead of Magoma, I'll never know. I think he was maybe just rested him. Obviously we got to remember Magoma as a young lad. Is he still like 19? Let's see. I've got the squad in front of me here. Where is it? It is 19. So he's still a young lad, and obviously he's not played a huge amount of football prior to coming to Rangers. So I think there's the possible danger of burning him out. I think that happened with Jeffy a little bit. The other season, he had that little blip about a third of the way through where he wasn't playing well. And again, that's another young player that came in, he was meant to be challenging Yilmaz for the starting spot. Yilmaz, as he tended to do, got injured, and Jeffy ended up playing the whole season. And basically, we've done the same thing now with Magoma, who's come in, and I've said it multiple times. It's hard enough to come to a team like Rangers and be the first choice. It's another thing to come to a team like Rangers and be the only choice, which we've put on this young lad's shoulder. So I think it's just been resting him. As I say, Aaron's, yes, he's not a great player, but at the very least, he's not terrible in terms of he seems to have put his the errors he was making in the first half of the season behind him. He's not one of the things I kept shouting at my TV in the first half of the season was people kept nipping in and taking the ball off him. When he was sort of turned, he would turn. He's very bad at turning back and passing backwards, as Aaron. And one of the things he was doing in the first half of the season is when he made that turn back to look for a pass, people nipped in and took the ball off him when he he wouldn't see them come behind him. He seems to have stopped that happening, which is a positive, but he offers very little going forward. So I think he'll be okay in terms of if we're injured or whatever, he can do a job. But I think it's, as I say, just resting him, and I'm pretty sure we'll see Magoma back in the team pretty quickly. As I say, he came on and played well today. Let's see any other questions here. AJWTF6539 isn't Gogic 31. I think he might actually be slightly older than that, maybe 32. Let's have a look. But I'm of the opinion, like nowadays, into your mid 30s. Oh yes, 31. Apologies. Into your mid 30s, to be honest, for a lot of players, is fine. players really look at elite level footballers look after themselves a lot better than they used to do. And whereas your early 30s used to be, all right, this is retirement age. Now a lot of players can play into their mid 30s quite easily. And certainly centre backs, where unless your game's been really about being pacey, and you're losing your pace, then centre backs, I think, could certainly play into their mid 30s. I mean, well, just look at Balogun. If it wasn't for his injuries, he'd probably still be at Rangers and our first choice. So I don't think Goggins being 31 is an issue. Certainly in terms of we need quality right now. Yes, he wouldn't be the long-term option if we were to bring him in, but he would certainly be he'd be starting in our team right now for the next year or two, I would imagine. What's your thoughts on that, Stu, in terms of like player ages, and is 30 still the highest that you kind of want, or is it more of if they've got the ability, it doesn't matter?
I think it depends on what way you look at it from. I think in terms of performance-wise, players in that age bracket, as you said, will still give you performances without a doubt. I mean, even with the Gogic thing we're talking about, and we go back to when we took in Davy Weir as a short-term fix, and he ended up, really playing on.
Yep.
Liam McCulloch kind of took a leaf out of Davy Weir's book to extend his playing career. He kind of took a lot of kind of lifestyle tips off him and everything. So I think they'll certainly give you performances, they'll give you leadership. But I think, and this gets brought up all the time, that we kind of do, we have this apparent player trading approach. So I think if you're buying players at 30, you'll never sell them for anything. Yep. That's just going to be, they'll just fall off the wage book eventually once their contract runs out. So that's the only probably drawback. I think a player of that age will certainly give you performances, experience, leadership. They'll do a job, but there's no monetary value in the squad. They don't bring a lot in terms of that. They'll never sell them. So it depends what did they kind of stage the teams as. If we're a kind of established team, maybe willing to add wee bits of experience, and we're not so focused on selling players to continually improve the squad, then yeah, I would say it's a viable option for us.
Absolutely. I mean, I think one or two signings, and certainly from where we are right now, just need to be, you're being bought because you're a quality player that will go straight into our first 11 and change our team. And I don't care if you're 31, 32, if you've the ability to do that, we need one or two of those players. 85% of our signings, yeah, I think we want them to fit the model in terms of, we can bring them in, they play well, we'll sell them on for more. So 85% at least signings should maybe do that. You then have 10% that are maybe younger players, like for example, an Enciala, or even a Fernandez, who you buy, who's maybe not played that much, but you see something in them, and you're buying them to be in the team in maybe a year or two. And then your last 5%, as I think should be, or can be, someone that maybe is 30, 31, but they'll come in and do a job straight away. Even Dessers kind of fits into that category. I mean, yeah. I think he was 29 when he signed, but he was much older. But he came in and he was immediately in the team, and for 2 seasons he did a job. And like I say, as much as he got criticism, I think most fans would take him back at this point.
Heartbeat.
Absolutely. So yes, got a comment here on Barron. Looks to have upgraded as a player. His cheeky little drops to the shoulder, rolling players, etc., makes Dio and Raskin look crap. I think he's certainly been playing well the last couple of games. In terms of his passing, that was my main criticism of him overall. I thought he was excellent at the the hustle, and bustle of the game, at breaking things down. I thought he was really good at that kind of stuff, but his passing wasn't quite as good as, say, Dios or Raskins. But his passing actually really stood out to me in the Braga game. He put in quite a few really good crosses in particular. And I think he's certainly a player that's on form right now in comparison to the other two. Raskin just seems to be, he's getting a lot of, I saw he was getting a lot of grip in the comments as well. I don't think he's been bad per se, but he's just been kind of floating through games, not doing an awful lot. Whereas, like, say, Barron, I think, has been all over the place and playing really well. All over as in getting about the pitch. And yeah, seems to be on form at the moment.
Yeah, I agree, and I think Barron, when he came in, he knew he probably had a bit of work to do to get himself up the kind of levels a bit. I think he got found out a few times. I think his attitude's never been in question, his desire, his ability, and his enthusiasm to try and impact the game. So I think he's really put the work in because he doesn't look like the same player that initially came in from Aberdeen. And I really had the motivation that he's probably always been seen as maybe the third or fourth choice behind Rask and Diamandis and everybody. So it's always been on him to go and take that jersey. Whereas I think some of maybe the other players, they kind of are fully aware, we're the established first two and stuff like that. I'm going to start every week. So I think maybe the position and the journey that Barron's come on is really kind of driven him to improve. So it's been good to see him obviously get the rewards for that.
Yep. Okay, and maybe just the last one here. We've got Isnal FNC saying player trading is a myth. The only way player trading model works is if a team is successful. Trying to do trading before success in Scotland is cart before the horse. I think there's a little bit of truth in that. If you are a successful team, that will absolutely help you sell players. Successful players sell better. You only need to look across the road and look at some of the kind of squad players that they've sold for like 2 or 3 million here and there, in some cases even more. If you're a part of a successful team, because you can then go, look, buy this player, he's won X titles in the last however long. So yes, absolutely. But I think we ultimately still have to try to do player trading, because ultimately we need to raise money to spend money, and that's going to help us to get obviously to buying better players. If we're going to win, if we're going to be successful, we need to have better players, and to get better players, we need to make money in order to buy them. So I think there has to be a little bit of both involved, and we need to keep striving towards, as I say, having the best model that we can. So definitely appreciate what you're saying there, and like I say, there's definitely truth to that, but I think a little bit of both needed. So any last points you want to make today?
Don't think so.
Please be better, Rangers.
Result. We just need better. There was talk of why Brajami was substituted today, and it's to focus on our European ties. I think we need to absolutely kind of not forget Europe. We still need to give a good account of ourselves, but for me, the absolute priority is the domestic season. We need to save face in that. We need to get back up to nothing less than second. We need to be challenging for first. And I think if we're resting players for European games, we can't put Falkirk away. I don't want to see that continuing. We need to be playing our strongest team for as long as they're fit and available from start to finish until the bread and butter of the Rangers' successes is back on track, and that's the domestic league. So I was annoyed. I don't know if that's true, but the commentators on Rangers TV were suggesting that that's why Brajami was brought off, and he was one of our only kind of creative sparks and guy who looked like he could do something. So that was annoying, and I think we'd like to see his focus on the league before we're thinking about European performances. Because for me, Europe's kind of done already. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think we're going to really do anything at this point. So I'd rather we're moving forward. We don't rest players with an eye on Europe when we really need to be focusing closer at home. But on a jazz.
Yeah, no, definitely. They can't have been doing it for this week because although we have got a midweek game, that's the game against Dundee United. So that's another Premiership game. Our next European match is on the 11th.
Right.
So if that's what Tom's saying, he's got himself confused again. But someone in the forgive me, I think the comments scroll past it, but someone mentioned Bajrami won't be match fit, which is probably true, having played so little. So he probably needed to come off after a wee while. Unless also, as I say, while he was one of the better players, he still wasn't great. So I don't think taking him off was necessarily a terrible thing either. I think you're right. Obviously, Europe we had to beat Braga to have any realistic chance. We kind of needed to win all 4 of our last games if we were going to potentially go through. So that Europe's gone. Like you say, it's about making a good account of ourselves. I think our best chance of getting a win now is the Ludogorets game at home. Ludogorets have also been poor. So I think that's going to be our best chance of getting some more points on the board. But yeah, it's about doing the best we can in the league. The team have missed an opportunity today. Obviously, Hearts dropped points, which and we could have gone into third had we won today, but we stay fourth due to goal difference. We're equal on points with Motherwell in third, on 22 points now, but we are one worse off in goal difference. And still multiple points behind the top two. So plenty for this team to do. We'll cover more of the game on Monday night, no doubt, and we'll have plenty for you throughout the week. So do stay tuned to the Rangers Journal. If you're not subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. It helps the channel out a lot. You can hit the notification bell as well to get notified of when we go live. Just say thank you again to Bluebell's Bar at Puerto Carmen, Lanzarote, for sponsoring the pod. Big thank you to Stu for joining me last minute and saving everyone from just listening to me waffle on for 45 minutes. We've done quite well. As I say, I think we've gone over all the main things again. Rangers, things are just really poor right now. Please, can some of you find a creative bone in your body? That would be fantastic. Thank you. I think we all need a pint like Stu has there now. So we'll leave you all to grab yourselves a tipple of your choice. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. And just remember that every night it's a Rangers Journal night. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Every night is the Rangers Journal night.